Playtime Corporation is as dangerous and corrupt as companies go, but we've seen signs that numerous employees willingly took part in the horrible things going on in the deeper parts of the facility, while others seemingly didn't know that Playtime was even doing anything other than creating toys. But where does that leave the player character, the protagonist of this whole series? Do they know what Playtime were doing before returning, or is everything revealing itself before the ex-employee? That's what I want to talk about in this video. What does the protagonist of Poppy Playtime actually know? It seems hard to believe that our character is completely in the dark about the events that took place in Playtime in the 1990s, since they are said to be an ex-employee, and they are one of the very few characters that we know survived the Hour of Joy event that took place on August 8th, 1995. It isn't well known where the protagonist was during the Hour of Joy event, but we do have some evidence to show that they were not present, possibly due to travel or even being fired or unemployed at the time. In Chapter 3 of the Poppy Playtime series, we get a sequence that reveals more to us about the protagonist than almost any other moment within the game, and that is when you visit the housing quarters for the Playcare children. You will arrive at a place that is filled with red gas that is used by Catnap to put the orphans to sleep, and with no way around the gas, the protagonist is forced to walk into it. It doesn't seem like it at the time, but the protagonist actually falls unconscious at this moment, revealed a little bit later. But it's immediately noticeable visually, since the staircase and hallways become comically long. So it is vitally important to understand that everything now is within the dream of the protagonist, and it's taking place inside of his head, revealing some cold truths and clues as to what he actually knows. The sound of static from the radio plays while you find a line on the ground, scratched into the floorboards. Happy and fun, why was it done? It's also during this dream sequence that the news reporter on the radio speaks about the death of Elliot Ludwig.
Tragic news this morning. As of 9:45 a.m., local authorities report that the body of a young boy has been found on the estate of the late Elliot Ludwig, an esteemed toy maker and originator of the Playtime Company. At this time, an identity for the child awaits official confirmation. Found in an upstairs bedroom in a large duffel bag, officers on scene report that the remains appear to have been disturbed. Organs, as well as key bones from the skeletal structure, were reported missing from the body. It is unknown at this time whether this extraction was, in fact, the cause of death.
This is the very first piece of information that we have about Elliot Ludwig's apparent death, also mentioning the fact that the remains of a child were found inside of a duffel bag within his estate, with skeletal fragments and bones missing from the body. Now, at face value, this could simply mean that the protagonist heard about these events on a radio at some stage, or is simply reliving that event in his mind. But I think it's deeper than that. Later we find the words "guilt haunts you" scratched onto the ground and on the wall. The protagonist has clearly been involved in something here within Playtime, and it makes me speculate, since he had knowledge of the death of Elliot Ludwig, could he even be responsible for his death? Or possibly is the one that stole the skeletal fragments and bones of the orphan found within the duffel bag. The radio messages continue, and this gets really creepy.
Events Playtime Co. was asked for any comment regarding the discovery. This is what they had to say. Quote, "It's sickening. Elliot Ludwig was a great man, and those who knew him understood that he was not capable of violence, let alone what others now claim. He had a deep love in his heart for children like this one, making the actions of whoever planted this body all the more sick. We look forward to clearing his good name, both in the public eye and in the eyes of the law. Stay tuned for more."
Could the protagonist have been the very one that planted the body at the estate of Ludwig? Not to mention the clearly unhinged mind of the protagonist as the voice on the radio changes and becomes more distorted and evil. Or it could possibly be the prototype's work.
Despite Playtime's proclamation of Ludwig's innocence, many believe his reclusive and mysterious nature displayed over the previous decades lends suspicion to this claim. When questioned, Ludwig's neighbors indicated that he would often return to his home in strange hours of the night and depart again before sunrise. Some believed he was sick, others that, don't move. Don't move an inch. Playtime Co., it seems, intends to keep Elliot's name within its brand regardless. What is sure to be a long legal battle will follow.
How could he know this information? Even the distorted voice telling us, don't move an inch. Is it just me, or does that come across like the orders of a police officer would give someone, or having been found in the act of doing something wrong? There is clearly guilt, but what for? Well, we might just have the answer for that. There is a radio that plays, and at first it sounds like a jumbled mess, or like it was malfunctioning. But in reality, it's playing backwards. And if we reverse the audio, this is what we get.
I find your presence intrusive. After all this time you return. You come in here and you kill and murder. You pillage and destroy. Your presence was demanded 10 years ago and you didn't show up. 8/8/1995. You were supposed to be here. Why weren't you here? You missed the event. You missed the meeting. You missed the party. You have no right to be here. 8/8/19.
It claims the protagonist killed and murdered, pillaged and destroyed. He was demanded for the event but didn't show up. 8/8/1995. This date, by the way, correlates directly to the Hour of Joy. Being questioned why he wasn't there and that he missed it, and since he missed it, he has no right to be here. Could this be the reason for the guilt that he feels? And it also gives some insight to why the protagonist maybe returned to this hellhole in the first place, possibly looking for redemption or to right some wrongs that they feel that they committed. Not to mention that it's obvious that the toys or the prototype wanted the protagonist at the Hour of Joy to be punished for his crimes. And let's not forget, because it's easy to mess this up, the employees at Playtime are not really the good guys here. And while the Hour of Joy was a horrific event that killed many, and it can seem that way when you watch toy monsters killing everybody, but in reality, this is the orphans getting payback for being experimented on, turned into monsters, forced to serve the toy company against their will. And 8/8/1995, aka the Hour of Joy, was the night that they reenacted that revenge, and the protagonist skipped his punishment. A voice can be heard telling us to get up, seemingly from our sleep. The sounds of babies crying suggest trauma and memories once experienced by the protagonist. And finally, the television. Remember, as you listen to this is the subconscious of the character speaking to him.
Greetings, employees, and welcome to your first day here in Playtime. We're certain that in the days to come, you'll find your new family here every bit as loving and supportive as your own. Feel free to wander the halls, sit in the mess for lunch, or watch our children play and learn to their little hearts' content. Join the innovationists where the bounds of science are continuously pushed, or join the counselors of Playcare whose diligence and care for our children will help shape a brighter future. Just you see. Now, every one of you has your part in that future, so should you come back tomorrow feeling unhappy for where you are or what you've done, worry not, for your supervisor is here and happy to listen. And should you come back years later, your conscience finally getting the better of you, may you descend into the dark and the dust, finding all that awaits you are incomprehensible horrors, each hungry for your return, each eager that they might find you. Perhaps they'd smile at you from a shadow, their smiling mouths full of teeth and meat and plastic, watching and waiting patiently for their turn at a warm welcome. Or perhaps they won't allow you such time to figure your place in the world you'd left, a world that's theirs now. Welcome home.
After all of that horror, does the protagonist awake, left to think about everything that he just dreamt? Now, we have other instances of our character being mentioned, such as Bubba Bubbaphant's information board mentioning that it remembers us.
Bubba Bubbaphant. Hey, I remember you.
Which actually leads to a different theory, that the monster versions of the toys are actually speaking through the cardboard cutouts found throughout Playcare. Not to mention Mummy Longlegs. When we were about to participate in the final game in Chapter 2, she mentions how we once worked here at Playtime and therefore we deserve to die here alone. Obviously, we will find out the truth of what the protagonist is responsible for in future chapters, but it's very obvious that our character is not a good guy. There is some serious guilt going on, and possibly had a much bigger role in what happened at Playtime than we think. Let me know in the comments down below what you think the protagonist did to make him feel so guilty. And are the toys in the right for trying to make him pay for what he did or partially did to them when he was an employee? Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, peace.